So welcome again to one of the FCC Online weekly podcasts. Last week I was joined by my wife Gabby, who was sharing a bit about her role as an IDVA and working in domestic abuse during these very tricky times at the moment. This week I have the privilege of being joined by Dan and Katie Barnes. So they're going to be sharing a bit about their challenges and some of the things they've been experiencing, and specifically what they feel like God's been speaking to them. So Dan and Katie, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi. So I've just been pointed out, so it looks like I'm going first. I'm Dan. Obviously, I'm with my wife, Katie. We've been with FCC since about 2018. We were just thinking about it actually earlier on today, trying to work it out. Both of us, I come from a church background. Went to church in Cosham for my whole life, apart from when I was at uni, when I went to a few different churches up there. So yeah, very typical from that point of view.
Yeah, same for me really. So my parents are both Christians. I was brought up in a Christian family, and we initially went to one church and moved to Cosham, and then once myself and Dan got married, we moved away, and then came back to Cosham, and then bought a house in Fareham. So we ended up at FCC.
Great.
We have our daughter Anya, who is just over 18 months. So yeah, she was born back in July, just sort of before lockdown. So she did actually get to meet her family before we kind of locked down. But yeah, she was about 6 months or so when lockdown one hit.
Wow.
So that was an interesting challenge for Katie, I think, during her maternity. Well, yeah,
definitely.
Her maternity, I think. But yeah, she's now running about and being a bit of a loony. She's been quite good at the moment. She's not crying. So
Oh, good. What a result. Yeah. Brilliant. That's great. Yeah, I was going to ask, so you guys are obviously a young family. You have a young daughter called Anya. And so the challenges that you guys have been facing are probably quite unique to your sort of circumstances. So why don't you share a bit about some of the biggest challenges you've been facing at the moment?
Yeah, so I think when the initial lockdown happened, Anya was about 7 months actually. So I was very, very lucky in the fact that I got to do the baby groups and things like that, and met other mums for those first 7 months. But then when lockdown hit, that all stopped.
Yeah.
And that was actually really hard. I thought I was going to the groups for Anya, but actually for myself, it was a really nice difference in my day, and that kind of all just stopped. And then I had to think of things on my own to do because I couldn't go out. And actually, that first week of lockdown, we actually had to isolate because I developed a cough.
Right.
So,
wow, yeah.
So we hit lockdown, but then we were also locked down in our house anyway. So yeah, that was quite hard.
Edit to that. Katie had to lock down for 1 week. I had to lock down for 2.
Yeah.
For not having. So I had from the first bit, I had that 2 weeks not going outside at all, which was awful. But yeah, so during the lockdown from the start, I was working from home. Fortunately for me, I changed job in February last year. So I was working at a leisure centre, and I'm now working at the University of Southampton. So fortunately for me, the job change came at a really good time, really fortunate time. Otherwise, I would have been on furlough. Wouldn't have been able to work, and we would have actually struggled.
Yeah. With me being on maternity leave as well. So.
Yeah, and at that point, we were getting to the nearly bit where even the statutory kind of maternity pay stops after that 9-month period. So actually, we would have really struggled. So, we're incredibly blessed at that point with the timing. I'd been looking for a job for a long time, and lots of sort of doors shut in my face, lots of no's, lots of rejections, lots of frustration really. And then this one came along at just the right time, working as a manager within the domestic services team, so the cleaning team, whereby I would sort of be a part of an indispensable part of the university fabric. So I was given a load of school during the period, was able to work, so that was a real God timing thing. The house group have been praying for it, and we've been, about a year, to get that job. So, it was a real timing thing. That was a real blessing at the beginning of all of that. But working at home and with Anya sometimes is a challenge, I would say, in terms of the focus. But as well, it meant that actually I got to see Anya a lot more from that kind of 7 months to, well, even through now, than I probably would have done if I was working in the office.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to see her first steps. Going back to crawling, first steps, kind of her first words as well. You were kind of more around to see those things. Right? So that was another blessing for us. I guess another challenge was our family not being around to see that. Like everybody, Dan's mum, my mum and dad, not there to be able to kind of come in and give those hugs. That was really hard as well, wasn't it? To not have that, even that support network where you could give Anya over for half a day, just to have a bit of a break. We couldn't do that, so it was just us, for like everybody else. Those couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. Both had our sort of wobbles.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, of course, we all have, haven't we? And I think obviously you guys were going through a massive transition in your life, having a baby, and then you were settling into a routine, like Katie was sharing about the privilege of being able, what feels like a privilege now, but the luxury of being able to go to all these baby groups and enjoy interaction with mums and learning so much and all that sort of stuff, and then suddenly to go from so much interaction that is so important, especially as a young mum, and also for Anya, to almost nothing, must have been a real shock. So how did you guys deal with that sort of sudden, sort of like intense support structure around you to almost reducing to absolutely nothing, and it's just you guys at home with Anya?
I think
like everyone, we hit Zoom hard.
Yeah.
At the beginning, which was, and it's amazing that we've got this sort of thing, and we decided to pay for the subscription so we didn't have the thing sort of dropping off every 40 minutes, because we just did it so often. I think at one point we probably had about four calls a week, like weekends or nights or whatever, with with Katie's parents or my mum or 18 to 30s doing a quiz, that kind of thing. So that was good at the beginning.
I guess we did talk a lot more as well, didn't we, in terms of how we were feeling, and I think that was the key for us. I'm quite impulsive with my feelings. Dan's not so much so I kind of just need to talk quite a lot, whereas Dan used to think a lot more and is more thoughtful. So that really helped both of us to kind of get by in that sense. I mean, for me, one group that I was part of did continue on Zoom, so I did have some interaction with other mums, but it wasn't how it normally would be. Two groups ended up starting on Zoom, but it's just not the same. It's not the same interaction. It's not the same kind of going for a coffee afterwards, but that kind of kept me going because I had something to look forward to in my week, rather than thinking, oh, it's just another day. To go around and
Definitely.
I think the kind of the house group Zoom kind of stuff, actually in a way it made it more, it actually made it more accessible for us in that sense, because it meant that we could both always go, provided Katie wasn't really tired, which at times you were. So Katie has chronic fatigue, so that's sometimes that intense interaction with Anya over that period, coupled with the potential lack of sleep at times, which in fairness, we did get a pretty sweet deal with Anya because she does sleep through and has slept through.
That's so lucky.
So compared to there'll be lots of parents, I'm sure, sitting there going, "What? That's nothing." And to those parents, we extend our empathy and wish you the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the house group definitely made a big difference, and that sort of became church for us. I think because Sunday morning, the Zoom with Anya was really difficult to interact with
Sure.
on Sunday morning. Unfortunately, just she wasn't. But she quite liked some of the songs when they were on, but that only captured her attention for a minute, maybe at most. So it was quite difficult for us to really focus on the message and stuff. So our house really was where we got our church, and that's been great. Actually, I think we sort of got closer as a house group because we've been quite open and honest, and everyone's been able to be there for the most part.
Brilliant.
So that's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting when I've been going through these conversations with people to see how many people have identified how their house group or their life group has been one of the main, they're almost like life raft in this whole situation. It's been an environment where they can be honest, like you say, they can talk to people, they can have some resemblance of community in a circumstance where otherwise community is one of these things that we're told to avoid. And actually, yeah, it's good to have that message reinforced to people, whoever's listening, whether you're in a house group or not. If you are, continue to embrace it and enjoy it and make the most of it. If you're not, then please get in touch with us. We've got we'll be able to find a space for you somewhere, or with a group of people that are going to love and support you through this whole journey. It's not too late, so yeah, do reach out for that. Yeah, it's brilliant, and I think that's been one of the weird things that has come out of this whole COVID thing. Really, has been just the re-emphasis of how important those intimate relationships are, and how it's less about the events we've been running and the services, and actually the lifeblood of it's been far more about the intimate gatherings and conversations with people. So it's really good to have that reaffirmed by you guys. And yeah, life is difficult, and it looks totally different for anybody. But apart from Anya sleeping well, has there been any other triumphs or moments where you guys have really been experienced joy over the last year?
I think the being able to when it was the summer and we were able to be kind of out in the garden, and there's brief times when at that point where people were allowed to come in your garden, and those times were really nice because it meant we could be outside with Anya. For me, I was watching Anya grow much more probably than I would have done if I was still working in the office. I wouldn't have seen a fraction of what I saw of her, and that was really nice. And there were those brief periods where we were able to see, appreciate at a distance from outside the family and talk to them, and the occasional sort of friend and that kind of thing.
I think nice. That's what I found most precious, and the most joyful was when actually we could meet. Well, I know we can meet one person now, but when we could meet a bigger group of people, so we have friends who we could travel to see, who live away, and that's been, that's been really hard not to see them as well, and actually being able to see those people, and appreciate it more, because at the moment that's not a possibility. But even now, just seeing somebody one-on-one, it feels like such a novelty. I met up with somebody today for a walk, and I'm really grateful that I could do that, and that it's still a possibility to do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it shows you when you don't have something, you suddenly realise what's important to you, and I think that human interaction is something we can never escape in our lives. We it's so desperately need it, and yeah, those special moments of interaction with people, I think, are going to be something that we're all going to have a different attitude towards post all of this whole lockdown stuff.
Mm.
But obviously that's just a bit about a snapshot, a very small snapshot probably of what life has been looking like for you guys, and having a young baby at home and having the privilege to be able to be there and see her grow up when otherwise you perhaps wouldn't have been, to miss out on the little things in the day. But specifically in your faith, what do you think are some of the things that God's been speaking to you specifically about? This video has been split into 2 parts, so if you want to hear the response to that question from Dan and Katie, then click on part 2 of this podcast and find out more. This podcast is all about us learning and growing together. And so if you would like to come and join me for a conversation, then please get in touch. We'd love to hear what God is doing in your life. However you were listening and wherever you were listening, thanks so much for joining in. If you've enjoyed this podcast, then come and join us next week for a similar conversation, but with someone different.